Overlord Season 4 Episode 7, and this is probably the most gory episode we have had, well, since the first season, to be honest. I don't think there has been any episode that has been more gory than this one out of the 4 seasons, because I mean the amount of killing, blood, torn arms, torn heads and legs and everything else, it was incredible, to be honest. I mean, the last episode was already pretty gory, to be honest, but this episode took it a step further because we saw the killing of a lot of Quagoa, of tens of thousands of Quagoa by Shalltear. I didn't expect this episode to get that intense of gore, because we already saw a little bit of gore in the last episode, but yeah, this episode took it a step further. But yeah, I mean, the general topic or theme of the episode is Ainz meeting the dragons, which in the last episode we saw that he was going to do. He was on his way to meeting the dragons, which of course he did in this episode. And to be honest, the whole interaction between the dragons and him, and the Quagoa and Shalltear, was a little bit different than I expected. I expected, the dragons to put up much more of a challenge to Ainz than they did. So much for them being one of the strongest creatures on Overlord as an anime as a whole. So much for that, because I mean, they went down pretty easily. And yeah, I mean, the meeting went pretty smooth for Ainz, to be honest. I thought they were going to put a lot more of a challenge. I guess they are still the strongest, or one of the strongest creatures, in the anime. But it depends on what dragons we're talking about, because these dragons, although may be strong or are strong, to be honest, compared to most of the other creatures of the Overlord world, well, compared to Ainz and his guild, they're not. But of course, that doesn't mean that there isn't still a much stronger dragons than the frost dragons we saw in this episode. And yeah, Henjin Mal, I think was his name, was made basically a pet of Ainz. And yeah, all that time he was basically just trying to survive. He didn't care for that much for his father. He was just trying to save his life, which he did, of course. He was almost killed by Ainz with Heart, which, if I'm not mistaken, that is a tier 9 spell, something like that. Which, of course, in order to survive that type of spell, you have to be tier 9 spell or above, which is basically being one of the strongest characters of the whole anime. So, of course, these dragons were easily defeated by that spell, which, yeah, we saw already in previous seasons. But, yeah, I mean, Ainz wanted to kill a lot more dragons, but he made the moms of Henjima survive because, well, he's not that much of a cold-hearted killer as many people might think, because he killed only the ones that resisted. For example, the main dragon, the father of them all, the leader, he killed him because, well, he was resisting, he was trying to attack him. In the other dragon too that was not obeying him, that I don't even remember his name because he was that irrelevant, that he was killed immediately also by Heart. So yeah, like I said already, pretty smooth transition of Ainz dominating the dragons. They're probably going to be now part of the guild too, just like the Dwarves. And slowly but surely, Ainz has been getting species, creatures from all places of different kinds. For example, he got the dwarves, he got the lizard man, now he has some dragons, and yeah, I mean, slowly but surely he's getting there to a multi-species, however you want to call it, kind of kingdom, which is something that everybody, I think, will appreciate, because I mean, it shows that Ainz is actually following on his word, because in the first episode, I think it was, he sought to have a kingdom that was multi-species, multi-creature, that respected all other creatures, that there was no discrimination, which he's slowly but surely following through, because as we saw already in this episode, he doesn't discriminate against, well, anyone, unless of course it is not so much discrimination, but he does basically kill people that don't follow him in his way of thinking. But if you think like him, if you respect him, if you don't basically go against him, he will respect you, he will not discriminate against you. And even if you do go against him, he doesn't discriminate you. He does kill you, of course, but I mean, he is following through what he said in the first episode. That is good to see that he actually has word and he actually follows through with what he says, which of course that shows everybody else. For example, the dwarves, now the dragons, the lizard, that he does follow through with what he says, which that eventually will put respect on his name. That is something that many people may not consider or have not considered that much, but yeah, if you really think about it, that is actually an important part of Ainz's personality, and that shows character development for him. and for the other people around him that slowly but surely they will come to trust him as they see that he's not a pure evil creature, a pure evil Lich King. So yeah, we also saw in this episode, well, at the end of the episode, it gave us kind of, I think, a hint of what the next episode will bring us, because these are the types of episodes that when they end, we don't really know, or we don't really get so much to speculate on for what the next episode will bring us, because this type of episode generally just ends what it sought to, well, to show us, which was basically the dragons, Ainz, and the Quagoa being dominated. When this type of episode do their thing, their proposed things, they don't really give us too much for what is going to happen in the next episode, which, to be honest, it was almost sort of the case for this episode. I mean, it basically sought out to do everything it wanted to do, and it did it. But I mean, I guess we got a little hint at the end of the episode between the funny talk between the Murge and Ainz, and the theocracy was mentioned, and well, I think that kind of gave us a general hint, a general idea of maybe where the story is heading on in the next couple of episodes, which I think will focus a little bit more on the theocracy and, you know, trying to destroy them, possibly. So yeah, I think that could be a hint of where things are heading now, that this sort of mini objective that Ainz had has been completed, and yeah, let's see if that follows through in the next episode. But if it doesn't, if it goes another direction, well, I mean, it was to be expected, because like I said already, this episode didn't give us that much to speculate upon. But yeah, I mean, this episode was good, was great, to be honest. We saw some action. The last couple of episodes have been packed with action. You know, the fight between the Quagoa that we saw in the last episode, and this episode too, we saw action between Shalltear and the Quagoa and Ainz and the dragons. So yeah, I mean, packed episodes with actions, and that is always going to put a smile on a lot of people, because a lot of people enjoy that. I'm kind of a mixed bag, to be honest. I enjoy episodes where we see a lot of actions, but I also enjoy slow paced episodes where we get a little bit more of development of the story, of the characters, of side story. I don't hate those type of episodes. So yeah, I mean, I'm pretty much in the middle. I enjoy action-packed episodes like this one, but episodes like we saw in the first couple of episodes of the season, I also enjoy. So yeah, good episode in my opinion for me, and I think a lot of people will actually think the same. I hope we can actually see now Ainz fight the God King, or you know, or some other people in the theocracy, maybe some people in the empire, or I don't know, or in the kingdom even, because I think it's now time that Ainz in his Sorcerer Kingdom actually fights some of the other nations, because until this point, I mean, we only got the fight at the end of the third season against the kingdom, and yeah, that is pretty much basically it. I mean, I guess if you consider the people of the theocracy in the first season a fight against a nation, well, again, that's two nations that he's fought against, but those are not really all out war, you know, all out fights in where Ainz is trying to destroy the other nation. I mean, the fight at the end of the third season can almost count like that, but he wasn't really trying to go all out to destroy the kingdom. He was just trying to show the power of Ainz and his people. I think it is time we actually see an all out fight between two nations, the Sorcerer Kingdom and some other nation, or even two nations teaming against the Sorcerer Kingdom. Hopefully we can get this before this season ends. I really hope, because that will put the cherry on the top of this season, because that will make the season pretty good, pretty well, and I think everybody will appreciate that type of development happening in the season. But I think I pretty much said everything I wanted to say. I don't know if I'm forgetting something. I don't know if it's worth mentioning, but yeah, we got a couple of scenes here and there of Ainz. To be honest, I actually do want to talk about this, because in the last episode, you know, I said that Aura was judged by Ainz because he was talking to Shalltear, but I thought at that moment that Aura was going to think that, well, for the first time Ainz actually got something wrong. I actually thought that for the first time somebody in his guild was going to think that he got it wrong, that whatever he was thinking was, well, wrong. But no, that was not the case, and of course I should have seen this coming. Aura thought that actually, well, Ainz did that because he was thinking of Shalltear all this time. I mean, I should have seen that coming, but yeah, of course he didn't think that Ainz committed an error, and Shalltear almost also got to that conclusion that Ainz, well, made an error. But when Aura told what she was thinking, that, well, Ainz was actually trying to protect her and, you know, giving her some experience, well, then Shalltear changed her opinion. So yeah, she almost almost got to the realization that Ainz made an error, but she quickly changed her mind when she heard the opinion of Aura. So yeah, I mean, that is actually funny. We get another misunderstanding at the end with the Murge and with Ainz of the 10,000 years ahead. You know, he sees 10,000 years ahead of whatever everybody else is thinking, which is actually funny to think, because if that was the case, well, he will basically have everything under control and have no problems in doing whatever he wants. He even says, Ainz, which is actually funny, that he doesn't even know what is going to happen tomorrow. Which, I mean, it is pretty much like every human being. We don't actually know what is going to happen tomorrow. So yeah, it is actually funny to see that the Muse actually thinks that Ainz has that much of a see in the future when he doesn't actually do. But yeah, I mean, that was everything I wanted to say, and I hope you enjoyed this episode review for this 7th episode. Already in the 7th episode. Man, I don't want this season to end, but quickly it is ending. I will enjoy the rest of the episodes like there was no tomorrow. But yeah, I mean, I guess I'll see you all in the next episode review.